artificial intelligence is making rapid strides. There's talk of a new evolution that could fundamentally change life on our planet. Artificial intelligence has the potential to revolutionize every aspect of daily life: work, mobility, medicine, the economy, and communication. But will AI really make medicine better and doctors superfluous? When will self-driving cars hit our roads? Will intelligent robots usurp our jobs? And are we heading for a dystopia with no privacy and total surveillance? What exactly is artificial intelligence, and how much can it really do? What will change, and what will remain pure fantasy? To answer these questions, we embarked on an exciting journey to meet the scientists working on our future in the US, Britain, Germany, and China. Silicon Valley in California. Apple, Google, and Facebook all have their headquarters here. It's the epicenter of the digital revolution. The tech industry has changed the face of the San Francisco Bay Area. New startup companies launch every day. Rents have exploded, and artificial intelligence is the buzzword. A new type of supermarket recently opened its doors here. Amazon Go. All you need here is an app. Hold your mobile phone to the scanner, and you're in. As Leonardo shows me Amazon's new menus and explains that the language assistant Alexa can help with the preparation at home, I'm under constant surveillance. Which shelf do I stop at? Which products am I interested in? On the ceiling, sensors and cameras. Intelligent image recognition captures my every move. What do I take off the shelf? What do I put back? And what do I take with me? This branch is still in its test phase, but Amazon plans to open 50 such grocery stores this year alone. The end of the sales assistant. Just walk out. No more standing in line. No cashiers. I I feel a bit like a shoplifter as I leave. Comfort at the cost of privacy. One block away, a robot cafe. Another test lab for the future. Order by app and touchscreen. The increasingly ubiquitous tools of trade. My first ever cup of coffee served by a robot. So this is the taste of the future. AI will change our shopping experience, but what will happen to employees? Stanford University is at the forefront of global AI research with an annual budget of $6.5 billion. I want to know, how will artificial intelligence change medicine? X-rays accurately is a complicated process, but artificial intelligence is making fast progress. When it comes to identifying or recognizing simple images, computers have surpassed human accuracy.
Now, if I look at your picture, it's always probabilities. So there are cases where the machine is not really sure what would be sort of a decision to say, okay, this is, I don't know, pneumonia or something else.
Yeah, I think it's good to talk in terms of probabilities, because probabilities also give a sense of the algorithm, the model's uncertainty on that particular problem. I think one difficulty with probabilities is that it does make it hard for humans to interpret what is the probability of 88% versus 92% mean in terms of the decision I should make in the clinic. And so I think in that sense, one of the things that we could experiment with doing in the future is rather than showing probabilities that are so fine-grained, maybe we can show things like unlikely, or this pathology is likely, or this pathology is possible.
In healthcare, artificial intelligence is powering a revolution. Scientists are using artificial intelligence algorithms to sift through seemingly banal data, such as the up and down motion of the steps we take every day. They're looking for conspicuous patterns that could serve as early warning signs of disease. Scientists in the English city of Birmingham are working on a revolutionary diagnostic method. To date, there are no specific tests to detect Parkinson's disease, making diagnosis difficult. AI could change that. Max Little is a mathematician at Aston University.
Test.
Voice changes can be an early indicator of Parkinson's. Max and his team collected thousands of vocal recordings and fed them to an algorithm they developed, which learned to detect differences in voice patterns between people with and without the condition. In a lab-based study of the recordings, the algorithm was able to correctly identify a Parkinson's diagnosis nearly 99% of the time. Max Little's work is an example of the far-reaching changes AI is bringing to the field of medicine. It's no longer just doctors who are using artificial intelligence to develop new diagnostic methods, but data scientists, programmers, and mathematicians like Max. One example, when a person walks, sensors in their smartphone register the up and down motion of their gait. But what information can be gleaned from such data?
If we measured a pattern of someone's walking behavior, then someone who's healthy might measure the accelerometer to look like that.
Okay, so it's just the sort of movement you would have here.
Yeah, the hips going up and down regularly, that kind of thing. But if you looked at somebody with Parkinson's disease, they may have small steps like this, and they may be irregular, or they may have patterns like that, or they may even freeze and stop like that. So you can see that there's
a difference.
There's a difference. So you can also now train an algorithm, for instance, to pick out features like what is the distance between the time distance between these peaks, and it could also do the same with this, and it would be able to do that very precisely. And by doing so, we may be able to measure, for instance, that here there's a large variability between these. The advantage of the algorithm really comes when, for instance, you might have somebody who measures a pattern which looks like this, and it might just be one small change, perhaps, that occurs
synonym for innovation and unlimited freedom. The biggest players in the field of AI are based here, but their headquarters are hidden behind inconspicuous low-rise buildings. Facebook. We use their services, entrust them with our data, but the company is impervious to the public. A selfie at the entrance gate is just about tolerated. Next door at Apple, the visitor center's 3D model of the campus is as close as non-employees can get to the new building. What's going on inside? It's all confidential. We want to visit Google here in California and requested an interview weeks before our arrival. But all we get are stalling tactics. Like these visitors, Google leaves us out in the cold. Apart from a small store, this is the only visitor highlight accessible to the public. These Android lawn statues are even a designated location on Google Maps. Welcome to Google.
Google steht erneut im Visier der EU-Wettbewerbshüter.
Facebook have refused to answer questions.
Les personnels chez Facebook.
The European Union handing Google a $2.7 billion antitrust fine.
These companies command growing power over our daily lives and growing political influence. Google spends more than 6 million euros a year lobbying Brussels alone. The EU's Transparency Register lists more than 200 meetings with Google representatives since 2014. Google is the busiest lobbyist in Brussels. We finally get our interview, not in California, but in Munich, Germany, with one of the longest-serving employees, Jens Redmer. How important is AI for Google?
AI is so important to us that 2 years ago, we rebranded our entire research division to Google AI. AI drives a significant part of our product development. AI, above all, drives a significant part of our efforts to improve the quality of our products. Take machine translation. Through the use of machine algorithms, we've seen faster progress over the last 2 years than we did over the entire previous decade. Society will undoubtedly be propelled forward by the implementation of these services and the use of AI in the years to come. What's key is that it's done responsibly, under the principles of transparency. We need to explain how things work, why they are needed, where people's data goes, how they can control it, how they can delete it, if they want to delete it, or forward it. The user must have control.
But what about technologies like Google Home, the smart microphone sitting in people's living rooms?
Google Home isn't eavesdropping. There's a small chip on the device that listens out for the so-called hot word. It's waiting for the command, "OK Google," or "Hey Google," and only then is the microphone switched on to send a voice command or search request to the internet, the Google server. It then presents the result.
So, as a science reporter, I'm naturally curious
Geschäftsentscheidung beeinflusst.
On its home turf in the United States, Google is facing mounting political pressure. In Washington, we meet Barry Lin, head of the think tank Open Market Institute. He warns of the dangers posed by tech giants' influence.
We need to know in our society that the people who bring information to the public sphere, who talk to the press, who talk to our representatives in Congress, that they represent their own selves, that they're speaking in their own name and not for someone else, that they're not stooges, that they're not puppets. And the fact is today, our society, this is true here in Washington, it's true in Europe, our society is filled with puppets, with stooges who represent the interests of Google and Facebook and Amazon.
Given big tech's monopoly power, calls for regulation are growing louder in Washington.
When you have a monopoly, whether it's over retail, whether it's over search, then it means that the public doesn't actually have the ability to understand how that information is being used, how that power is being used. Monopoly per se, unless it is regulated closely by the public, is a danger. Google means to take over the world. They mean to direct our thoughts between person and person, our communications between person and person, our dealings in business between person and corporation. They mean to direct everything that they can. They want to know what's going on in our thermostats in our houses. They want to know what we're watching on TV. They are at a level of hubris that even the Stalinists could never have imagined pushing for.
Google, Facebook, Amazon. Will the influence of tech giants continue to grow? What can be done to rein in their monopolies? One thing is clear. Artificial intelligence is consolidating their grip on power. There's an urgent need to rethink antitrust policy. Mobility is another area in which AI is powering the march of innovation. In the near future, it could put self-driving cars on city roads. But how realistic is this vision? We've come to Boston, to the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Sartaj Karaman is a leading expert in the field of self-driving cars. He and his team are working on prototype autonomous vehicles.
I think that we nailed a couple items with computers and machines. One is all of this mapping and localization, all that technology works super well. Computers can know where they are within centimeter, sometimes with millimeter precision, way more than what is required to drive. Computers are now able to look around and understand where everybody else is.
make a conscious choice, and the machine is forcing you to make a choice, right? So you cannot hand wave it, because in the end you have to program something.
Driverless cars aren't yet ready for the road, and ethical questions still abound. Artificial intelligence harbors immense potential to benefit daily life, medicine, or mobility. But we also need to look beyond the technical possibilities. What aim does such progress serve? It's a question artificial intelligence